Alrighty, sorry for the late start. We're going to finish talking about files today, and I want to look at how we can make our life a little easier working with classes and files. Right? So if we want to store a bunch of information, we can put that together in a class, so we can kind of group everything together. That idea, we want to encapsulate all of our details, and have a nice, neat little package here. Let me just get my code here, and then we want to probably save that somewhere so we don't have to go load it again. So like that shopping cart we did, actually, let me go open up that one. That'll be fun. That was project 3. If we wanted to save our shopping cart and be able to come back and load our shopping cart and not have to store that every time. Why is my recent list not working? There it goes. Okay, project 3. Let's do both here. So we've got a shopping cart here. We can get our receipt. It doesn't give us really everything we want though, right? So if we want to now be able to save our cart, right? If we're working with data, we need to know how we want to read it or how we want to write it. Right? Either one of those things will determine the other. So if we look at, well, what's in our shopping cart? Right? Well, it's a bunch of items, right? It's really just a list of items. That's the only thing it has here is just a list. And then items just have name, quantity, and unit price. So we're going to need a way to write a bunch of items out so we can go and read them later. Right, so I can go get my list of things and load them into a shopping cart. So what I want to probably do then is figure out how I want to write an item into a file. And I'll just do a bunch of these. Right? So I could do one line for name, one line for unit price, one line for quantity. Right? That's an option. I could put them all in one line and put some kind of character doing a delimiting thing for them, and then I could split. Splitting is usually pretty easy, so I could read one line and then split. And then I'll have, okay, here, part 1 is name, part 2 is price, part 3 is quantity. That makes my life pretty easy, so I don't have to try and read a line, read a line, and read a line. So I tend to like putting things on one line. That's just, I think that's a little bit easier for working here. So what I can do then is I can add a method in here. So we already have a string that has this whole big long piece here. We could use this, but then we have to go and take it apart, right? We'd have to say, okay, well, I know name is going to come before the @ sign, and then it'll be a number first, and that's not really super friendly for trying to turn back into these distinct pieces of information here. So what I can do is I can define another function here for how I want this to look in a file, right? So maybe like get line for file or something, and this can return then a formatted string, and I'm just going to jam these things together. So I'll have self.name, get name, and then I want to figure out what character I want to put between these things. Now, I don't usually recommend commas because people can put commas in all sorts of names all the time here. So some weird characters. I'm awfully fond of the pipe character. It's the shift backslash. They use this in a particular format in healthcare, and I've never seen anyone ever use a pipe for anything ever before. So I feel like that's a pretty good delimiting character. The tilde is also fun. That's the shift accent character. That's a little small. Let me zoom in on that. So tilde is a fun one too. I mean, just pick any character you want here. Something you don't think people are going to use in a name. So any of the weird ones are probably fine for you. You can use carrots if you want. I don't know. I like pipes, but pipes are fun. So we'll do name, and then we'll do self.get. Do you want to do quantity or unit price? Which one do we want? Probably doesn't matter which order, as long as you know what the order is going to be. Let's do unit price and then quantity. So we kind of match. We'll do get unit price, and then another pipe, and then self.get quantity. Okay, and we don't actually have to use the gets. We could just go and access them the same as well, right? Just under unit price or under quantity. I think we're making sure we used these functions was all here. Okay, so I'll have the get line for file here, so I can turn one instance of an item into a single line, and I can just write a bunch of these things here. So if I want then a shopping cart to be able to get me a line for a file, right? So then we'll define a get line for file. We're going to return a formatted string. Now, if we need to read some number of items, I probably need to know how many items I'm going to read. Because maybe at some point I might want to store more than one shopping cart. I don't know. Maybe we don't need it. Maybe we just read everything in there. And that could work too. So maybe we'll just throw it all in. But if we wanted to, we could say, hey, let me see the length of items, and I'll go write that first. And then when I read that number, I'll know, oh, I have to go read now 7 lines, because I'm expecting, it says there's 7 things here, let me go read 7 lines. So as we get bigger and bigger, more and more information, we can do those sorts of things here. Maybe here's my shopping cart for Meijer, here's my shopping cart for Amazon, here's my shopping cart for whatever, right? We can have more than one shopping cart at a time. We're not quite there yet. We can figure that part out after. So to get the line for the file, all I need to do is go for every item and go use its get line for file and put all those things together here. So you can do this in list comprehension sort of syntax if we wanted, right? We could do the, for, this is, so I'd return a string, so I want to use the new line character, right? And then I would join \n dot join, and I'd say for item, why is it giving me some weird syntax here? We'll just try it as a string for a second here. So it'd be \n dot join for, this is, I want to join together my list of items. So for item in self items, I want a string of item, or I want item dot get line for file for item in self items. That's it. So for every item in self items, I want to get the line for the file. I want to join them together with the new line character. Right, so I get the first item, a new line character, the next item, a new line character, next item, a new line character. So that should separate all of those out here. I think we can return that. We'll see. That might work for us here. That syntax might be a little off. We can try it. So we'll do another elif option here. Let me zoom in a little bit here. So we do add done receipt. How about we add a save here then? Option, save. So if my option is save, then I want to write a file, right? So let me go steal that syntax here. We just say, hey, I want to open, right? So just open the name of my file here. Cool. So we'll go say, I want to, here's my output is open. We'll just call this cart.txt. And I'm going to write output, so output.write, and what I want to write then is my cart.get lines for file. Okay. And then output.close. I want to close that. There's we'll look at the shortcut for not having to close our file. There's a easy way for Python to manage that for us. Usually you open it, you read or write it, then you close it, just to make sure we've cleaned up after ourselves. So that should work for us here. Let's see. Let's give that a little run. Yeah, I deleted the scratch file. I don't want that scratch file. Oh, I gotta run this one. That's why. Okay, so we want to add an item. Well, we add bananas, 0.3. I wanted 7 of them or something. Okay, and then we'll add another item with apples, 75 cents, and 5 of them or something. So our receipt, just make sure that looks good. Okay, bananas, apple, grand total. And then we want to save our file. I forgot, we want to open this for write mode, right? We got to tell it, hey, I want to write this file, not read the file. There we go. Let's try that again. So we want to add an item. We'll add bananas, 0.3 for 7. We want to add an item. We'll add apples, 0.75 for 5 of them. Make sure the receipt looks good. Okay, I'm going to save our file. Now we should have a file, right? It should have written a cart.txt. It should be, here's my, it should just show up in here, right? I think if I didn't add it in here, I have to go open it. All right, let's go open in Explorer, project 3. Hey, a cart.txt. And we have bananas, a pipe, 0.3, pipe, 7. Apples, something, pipe, pipe. Okay, cool. So we're getting our quantity back out here. Seems to be working for us. Oops. I wanted to keep that one open. So we got the cart file. Oh, now it showed up. It just took a second here for it to show in PyCharm. Okay. So it's saving the cart, right? And then what if we wanted to load a cart, right? Okay, so then we'll add another option is equal to load, or maybe should we just load when we start here? Maybe that should be default. So we run our program, we'll just try and load the file. Excuse me. So we'll say I want to, here's my cart file is open cart.txt. Now this only works if the file exists, right? Otherwise it's going to crash on us here. So if I typo that or something here, it's going to crash me here. File not found error. So we could do a try except block. You say, hey, let's try something, and if an exception happens, let's handle it. That's kind of messy though, right? And when we work with exceptions, you want them to be exceptional. They're actually much slower for Python to use than something just like a quick if check, because it has to do special handling for exceptions. So we don't want that to be a normal case. We want it to be, hey, something really bad happened. Here's how I want it to recover, right? So I can just say, hey, here's my path, and then if that exists, right? We looked at some of that from the Zybook here. I don't even remember what that looked like here. I'm going to go copy paste. So I'm feeling a little tired. I need more coffee still. That's what I need. So we did, I think it was this one here, if exists. Yeah, so if this OS path exists here, so we can import the OS module here. So we'll go import OS, and then here's the name of our file here. So this is our if os.path.exists cart.txt. If it exists, then we can go and load it here. Right? We'll open cart1 here. Then I need to go and read out all of those lines here. So either way, I'm going to have a cart here. If the file exists, I want to go read all those lines. So I've opened it, and so for line in cart file dot read lines, right, will give me a list of lines back out, one line being each item here. I can read each line at a time, and as I go, I'm going to take my cart and I'm going to add an item. So I need to add a new item. So I'm going to add an item. So the first piece here, maybe I'll just take the data, item data is line.split on that pipe character, and then I'll have my item data index of 0 should be the name, and then I can't add it first, sorry. So here's my item is an item given that item data 0. We never set up the init method to take all the attributes here, so I can't just call the init method, right, and give it, oh no, we did, we can give it unit price and quantity, I'm sorry. And then the next one is item data of 1, but again, we want this as a float, right? We want to make sure we can still do arithmetic with this here. And then probably an int for the next one here of item data of 2. Right? And then I can go add that item. We could just do this here on the same line. You don't have to have it separate lines, but this gives us a chance, we can pause in the debugger, which is nice to see it's being created. So if we have a file, we're going to go try and read it out. Right? And we know the format is name, unit price, and quantity, right? Because that's how we wrote it here. So we can go read it, name, unit price, and quantity, delimited by this little pipe character here. And if I find it, I'll go load it up, and then I've got it ready to go. And maybe we tell them, hey, we print previous cart was loaded. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe we should have given them an option. It's okay. Oops, let's see. It did not like my trailing new line character, right? Because when it reads, we split on not the default split, which is any white space, which would have split that out here. We split on the pipe character, so there is a new line character at the end of here. So we want to trim all of those, or strip all of those. So we'll say .strip on that last one here. We'll take off all those trailing new line characters, right? Or any extra spaces around here. Let's see. Okay, so we're getting close. Doesn't like 7.0 as an int. Oh goodness. Okay. I think we want quantity. Oh, I spelled quantity wrong earlier. To be an integer value. So you can do dumb things like this. I don't necessarily recommend it, but it'll work. So I'll say, hey, let's turn it into a float first, and then turn it into an integer. Just you can turn a float into an int. You just lose the decimal place here, and that should be a little happier now. Now that the cart was loaded, we get our receipt back out here, and we get bananas, apples, and our grand total back out of our file here. We can go add some more items. We can save our file. We can do some fun things with it here. So this is how we can take an instance of a class and write it to a file. So the sort of thing like when we're playing Monopoly and you've got a list of properties and you want to write them to a file, Well, okay, now I can, if you want to take this approach, works out relatively well. And we say, okay, what do I want it to look like when I write it to a file here? And I can get a particular format, and then I know how to go read off of that format as well. So it just lets us quickly get that information, and we kind of put those details into the class here so that we can get all that information back out really nicely here. So we've got our items. So if we wanted to do different shopping carts here, so maybe we'll ask them, hey, which cart do you want here? And then I might save it as Meijer.txt or Amazon.txt or whatever here. As we're putting together holiday lists, right? Maybe we just put a shopping cart together and we can give that out to friends and family. We'll email them text files, right? That'll go really well. We're trying here. It's our first semester. So instead of doing all of it, maybe we can just load the previous cart here. So if we go to save here, maybe we'll ask them here. So the name here is going to be an input of enter the name of the store for this cart or something like that. I don't know. And then instead of calling it cart.txt, we'll give it name. Now, most people when they type and you say enter the name of the store, they're not going to say Meijer.txt. They're just going to say Meijer because that's what you asked for. So if we want to put the name in here and then add our own .txt, we can do that as a formatted string. Right? Again, you don't need the .txt extension. All that does is tell your operating system, hey, this is a text file, so that you can double click and open it up. Right? In this cart.txt, I can get rid of .txt here. It's just called cart. And it warns you here. Windows is like, hey, if you change it, it might become unusable. That's not really true, but it makes it harder to use here. Oh, it's still open, shoot. Gotta stop Python, I think. Now will it let me do that? Let's try that again. Cart. Okay, so now it's just cart. So now what unusable means is you can't double click it. When you double click it, it says, well, what do I do with this cart file? Because it doesn't have an extension, it doesn't know. So what Windows does is, hey, if it has a .txt extension, it opens probably with Notepad. If it has a .py file, it opens with whatever program for that. If it ends with .doc, it opens with Microsoft Word. Those are doc files, right? Document files. We can say, hey, open this with Notepad anyway, and I can still go open it. It just makes it harder to use rather than unusable. All right, so we'll get the name of the store and add the txt. So when we go to load here, maybe we don't just load a generic cart. Maybe we ask them, we'll go here and do a elif option is load. Then we'll do this thing here. Right, so we got our cart here, and then we need to ask them for the name of the store, right? So enter the name of the store, and then we're going to try and find the name.txt. And then if that worked, we'll open that name.txt. We'll read the lines, add them all here. Previous cart was loaded. Or instead of maybe previous cart load, maybe we'll say, oh, it's a formatted string. Name cart was loaded. Right, so we'll give them the option here. All right, so there should be nothing here now, right? Because we didn't load anything. We got rid of that option. So we want to add an item here. So if we're shopping on Amazon, we're putting together a holiday list. What are we wishing for the holidays? PS5? Does everyone have a PS5 now? There's the new Xbox, right? Didn't they come out with the new Xbox?
The Series, like one, something like that. The box one, right?
It's like the new Xbox. Series X.
Oh, Series X.
I thought they already had the Series X.
Yeah, did it come out like a year or two ago?
Yeah, this one came with like the PS5 wraps.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I thought they were releasing a new series.
It's been like a while.
Yeah.
They should probably release one more.
Oh, okay. So they've talked about it here, but they haven't actually released it yet.
I'm kind of surprised they're making another one after such a flop like the last one was.
Yeah,
I heard the PS5 like destroyed their sales and stuff like compared to Xbox.
I'm still an Xbox person. I'm a big Microsoft fanboy, but so leaked FTC versus Microsoft documents. Series X refresh. What's going to be round? That looks fun. That's S. X in XDL. What? All right. I've heard. Okay, yeah, this one here. 4K Gen 9 console gaming. What does that mean? Wi-Fi 6E, BT 5.2 radio for improved accessory, 6mm die shrink for improved efficiency. Oh. Reduced power usage. There we go. New low power mode. Oh, you can just leave it on all the time. Okay. Anyway, okay, maybe we're not wishing for the new Xbox then because you already have it. What are we wishing for then? Socks. Calculator. Calculator. All right. How much does that one cost? If it's a TI-83, it's what, like 199 or something stupid?
I mean, last year I got a graph calculator for AP Calc was 145.
145. Nice. Okay. And we just want one of those. All right. So it's in our receipt. Okay. What else do we want to wish for? Let's add one more item.
Let's go with socks. I think
Socks. Okay. Socks are classic. Now, are we talking like nice socks? So these are like
Yeah,
$3 a pair, $4 a pair,
let's go with like the $15 pair ones. Like that come in like a pack and stuff.
$15 a pair.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. Okay. And how many socks are we wishing for?
I mean,
Like 7 pairs.
7 pairs.
Yeah. We got one for every day of the week, right? All right. Cool. And so our receipt looks good so far. Right. So let's go save that. And this was Amazon. So now we should have a new Amazon.txt file. It'll pop up here in a second, hopefully. Oh, I can't spell Amazon, apparently. There's 2 A's there. I'm going to fix that here in my file name. Amazon.txt, we got calculator, we got socks. Cool. All right. I got to remember to close that text file. There it is here. So if we want to go load, oh, I never added the option here. Oops, I should tell them we should load. It should work though, right? We added the statement for here, yeah, into the name of the store. So we can still add cart.txt, and our cart was loaded. Right, and that one still has our apples and bananas. Oops, but now we have calculator and socks because we never cleared the cart back out. Right? When I loaded the file, I probably want to make a new cart here. So I should say cart equals a shopping cart. Right, that'll clear out the old shopping cart because we essentially just added the items we read out of that file here. So let's give that a rerun here. So we should be able to load the cart here. Receipt. We get apples and bananas. We should be able to load Amazon. Check out our receipt. We got our calculator and socks. So we should be able to switch between the two. It works out pretty well for us. Nice. All right. And then I wanted to make this a little bit more interesting here. If we have other pieces of information in here, I'm trying to think of what else we can add. It's like if you put a number down first, it makes it a little easier to read a set number of items here. As for our property, because for number of players, we'll have to know how many players to go load, right? When we're saying, hey, I've got 7 players here. I guess we could always write 8 players and just give them no names. That's an option. It's not the prettiest option. Or give them no money or that sort of thing. So it's nice if you know how many lines you need to read. So you just write a number, read that number, and then go do a loop and read that many lines is one option here. This just reads all of them here. I guess we can change that up here. So we'll say, let's change it. So when we go write our store here, before we write, so we'll take our output dot write. We're going to write the length of the cart dot. We don't have a way to get the number of items out. We could go access it directly, but that's kind of ugly here. So let's go add that into our shopping cart here. So we'll define a get number of items. And just returns the length of self.items. There we go. So now I can get that number back out here. So cart.get number of items here. And then remember, we want to also add in that new line character, or self, because that one doesn't come automatically when we write files here. Oops, we need that as a string, right? Okay, now I can add those, concatenate them together here, write it as a string here. So when I go load it then, the first line that I'm going to read then, so I'm going to get the number of items here. Number of items is my cart file dot, oh goodness, read. So read will read one line at a time here. So you can do one line as we go here, and that will be as an integer here. And then I can say I should leave this like commented out, right? Just leave that one there. I can say for items in range, number of items. I need to go read a line here, so I'll get my line then is going to be my cart file dot read. Oh, sorry, no, read reads all of it. Shoot, that's not it. Is it read? there's a way to do that with just one. Read. It just gives me read singular read line. Duh. Just a single read line. We'll read one line at a time. Here, there we go. I can read a single line. And it just kind of holds itself in place and knows where that line is, and it knows where the next one is, where the next one is, where the next one is here. So this is an option. All right, so let's give that a try. So we wrote the number of items first, and then we wrote a bunch of things here. So we won't be able to load any of those carts here, so we got to go just add some items here. We'll add bananas, 0.73. Add an item, we want apples, 0.75 and 5. So let's save this one. We'll just call it cart again here. Oops. The length of cart get number. Where did I do that? Line 23. Oh, it's not length. We already had length here, sorry. Just cart get number of items. I would have used length if we would have accessed the list directly. There we go. All right, so we got to add an item. We'll add bananas, 0.3, 7 of them. Add an item, add apples, 0.75 for 5. I'll save this cart. So the cart file now has the number of items first, and then it has the items. So we should be able to go load that here next time we run it here. Let's go and load our cart file. It says the cart was loaded, so if we show our receipt, we have the correct number of items in here. So that helps me save that here, so I know how many lines to go read, essentially, as I'm going to go. And then I can read more lines and read more lines and read more lines. So you can go one line at a time, and then go read, and okay, I've got more information. Read one line at a time, get some more information here. That works out pretty well for us here. All right, and then the last thing I wanted to look at, I don't know if Zybooks covered it here. I thought they had it at one point. Let's see. Oh yeah, the with statement here. So because we want to open something, read and write it, and then close it, you can use a little shortcut to say, hey, with open as my file, and it'll make sure to close it for you automatically. So it just makes sure that that bit of code happens, and then the file gets closed. So this is a good habit to get into using this with file, with statement. So we just put everything we wanted to in that block then, and it gets closed automatically when we're done here for us. For our stuff, it's not the biggest deal here. Like we opened it and then we closed it here, but we could say with open, right, instead. So if we want to do this instead, let me comment that here. We would say with, this will be my output as, right, with, oh no, just with open. Sorry, with open, this one here, as output. Then these things happen inside of it here. And then it just gets closed automatically here. So using the with, sure, file gets closed when the block is done. There we go. So same idea. So we could do it with the reading as well if we wanted to, but I don't need to convert all of them. So that's just like a helpful thing here. If you're working with CSV specific files, there's a CSV library. We don't have to do this ourselves. You can import the CSV module, and you can just go and read the whole thing out really nicely, which is pretty handy. So having to do your own splits and things is a little bit annoying, and this handles CSVs really nicely. Generally, they are quoted, so you can have commas inside. So you can't even just split on commas, because CSV files can have commas inside of particular pieces of data. So then they get quoted. So really, like, you're splitting on quotes and commas, and it just gets really messy. So just use the CSV module, and it works out really nice here. Have you seen that, like in Excel, when you save someone as the CSV? I'll show you here. So we say, like, here's name and here's major or something. So if your name happens to have a comma in it here, or like if maybe we did last name, first name, so if it was Terneski, Eric, and then there's the D, E, and G program I dropped out of. That's okay though, not salty at all. And I want to save this as a CSV. Let's do save, browse. Let's put it on my desktop for now for a second and change this to CSV. the data inside of it here then on my desktop. So instead of opening with Excel, I'm going to open with Notepad. It's just text data. We can go open it up and see the text file here. That's fine. Name a major, but then because this one has a comma inside of it, it gets quoted here. So, but not everything gets quoted. So sometimes your fields are quoted, sometimes they're not quoted. So trying to read this is just a nightmare by hand, right? So just use the CSV module. That's the whole story, right? It'll take care of all that stuff for you, which is beautiful. So we can work with CSV data. So you can get all sorts of data and start doing fun things with it. When we get into graphing and plotting things, not next week, but the week after, we do our little tour of fun stuff in Python. We'll look at reading out of some CSV files because that's a pretty popular way to have some data here. And then the last piece here is binary data. Everything we've done so far has been text files, right? But if you open up like a Word document here, you do a new Word document, and I just add some text in here, test, and save that. This is not something I can open with Notepad, right? If I try and open this with Notepad, I'm going to get garbage because the way that the data is stored is not in text format, right? So it can't interpret it as text because it's stored in a binary format here. So what that means is there's a particular way that the data has been written there, bit by bit by bit, not as the letter A, the letter B, the letter C, right? So we're not storing it as text data. So most of our files are binary files, right, on the computer system. They just have a particular format for data. It's just text files we can open up. So you can work with things byte by byte by byte, bit by bit by bit. It's awful here. So that's a more advanced topic we're just going to mostly skip over here. But you can do fun things here. So you could write this particular bit code here with byte literals if you wanted, and you can open up a file in binary mode. You give it a little B flag here. And then if you know how binary files work, if you know the particular format, this example is kind of fun. There's a bitmap file type, right? There's JPEGs, there's bitmap, there's all sorts of things. So bitmaps have a particular format here. You can load that bitmap. Here's the contents of the file here. And then you can go change some particular piece of it here. So I wanted to get this set of bytes out of it here. I don't even know, I have no idea what this is happening here. But we're going to go change the values to a different color and say, okay, I'm going to go overwrite what was there with this new value here, and then you have just change my picture to make it ugly. But this is how like programs work with data. They actually go open it up and they can interact with it and save it back out here. So you can do cool things with binary type files. We're not going to get into it now. There's all sorts of cool things you can do with them if you know the particular format that it's in here. And then the last thing, they don't show you here, but there's this JSON Python module. Right. So JSON data is one of the most popular ways of sending and storing data from online APIs and things. So it's just a particular syntax. It's really just like a dictionary. So a Python dictionary works very nicely as JSON data. That's really what it is here. So I think this one had some good ideas here, some easy ones. So if we make a no, I don't want your ads here. We can read a JSON file here. So import the JSON library. You can load a particular file here, and then you get back out your dictionary, right? But you can kind of mix and match what's in there. So some particular types here. So here's the dictionary name, age, children. We'll load this all up here. We can dump it to the file. And then write that to a file. So you just JSON dump, and then you give it the file you're writing it to. Here's that dictionary we're going to write here. It doesn't all have to be dictionaries. One of these had a nice list of types. I think this one was it. No, that's the one I just looked at. Shoot. I think Real Python had it. Yeah, this one worked out. This one had some nice examples. So you can have objects, you can have arrays, you can have strings, you can have numbers, you can have booleans. It's like name, address, which has other sub-information here. list of friends, other sub information here. So you can have like this nested list, just like any dictionary, with dictionaries of dictionaries, and you can dump it all as JSON data. So there's a little, was it Coin API? What was that one here? I think it was Coin API. I was just looking at one that had an easy one you could use. That wasn't it. I thought maybe it was this one here. Market data. So you can get information out. Yeah, we just want our indexes. You can get it back out as just plain JSON data, which is nice. Here's our send the request. Oh, we didn't add our key. Having API key is obnoxious. I'll find the one for you here, but there's again, really easy, the Marvel API? One of these is like open here. Oh, you still have to get a key though. It's obnoxious. Interactive documentation, maybe this will work for us here. Yeah, so you can get a list of characters here, and what you get back then is, where's its example? Try it out. I didn't give it the API. But it gives you back JSON data. You could go through and get an API, but I don't have one right now. And I don't really want to put my API out on YouTube. That's also a real bad idea. But you'd get this list back out here. So here's the character, and it's telling you, hey, here's all the things about it here that you get data back out. So you can do some fun things here. I have to get a key. Sure. But they've got a fun one here. I'll find you one that works pretty nice next time. But we can go read and write data and store it with JSON and load it with JSON. So instead of having to do it all by hand, right? If I've got just a list of things or dictionary things, I can just dump the whole thing at once, which is really nice. Working with our custom classes gets to be harder once we're doing it that way. But it's much nicer in programming to have a class than it is to just have a dictionary and try and map those things together. So we could do some conversions and take our class, put it into a dictionary, load the whole dictionary back up, and then turn it back into classes with not too much more work. But again, that's a little bit more advanced. Maybe we'll spend some time on that once we get back from break and play with that a little bit more. So last couple other fun things we can do. Yeah, so I think we looked at these command line arguments at one point here. I think we talked about this a while back. When you start looking at automating processes and running scripts and things, often you might want to pass it particular file names or say, hey, work with some log data, do those sorts of things. You can pass it in and it can run automatically given the name of a file. So we can do some fun things with command line arguments to just automate our scripts. Or, hey, when you load, go analyze this piece of data here, right? Rather than having to type it in as we're going here, we can go through and do that. So, all right, cool. I don't have too much more. Again, the Xylab's good practice here. But the main idea as we start looking at the final project is how do I take my class instances, right? If I'm going to have a bunch of properties, a bunch of players, and get that into a file, right? Figure out how you want to write it or figure out how you want to read it, and then you work backwards from the other one here. So, I think single line is nice for me. I'm fond of that. It doesn't have to be a single line. We could have had line 1 was name, line 2 was unit price, line 3 was quantity, and then read line, right? So the same option when you read line, you could just do read line for name, read line for unit price, read line for quantity, and then go back to the top. Okay, if I've got more to read, read line, read line, read line. Totally just gives you an option here, whichever way you like doing it here. But I am fond of the putting everything on one line. I think it just makes life a little easier for us here. Yeah. Awesome. Any questions, thoughts, concerns? We ready for Thanksgiving break?
Yes.
Sweet. All right, cool. I'll stop recording then.